I'm on week 2 now of my build back into running. So to recap from last week, the total mileage was about 25 miles for the week, with the main highlights was a 10-mile long run, which I managed at a sort of easy run pace and without any niggles or comeback on that. And I also got a bit of a quicker park run in that week, so I did 20-40 around Conkers, which is a 6:40-ish pace, which is about my marathon pace, so that's a good sign that I've got a bit of pace back and that I've got a decent sort of mileage in that week. So we just look to progress that from here. I think what's enabled me to do that is keeping my fitness up through my cross training, the hours I put in the last month with the cycling and swimming that I've been doing. Keeping up that strength training, the mobility work has really helped keep the niggle away, and I just want to build on that from here. So I'll be looking at upwards of 30 miles this week and then looking at doing an even quicker park run again. So that's a plan. Let's see how it goes. I started the week on Monday night with a cycle after work, so went out for about 50 minutes on my bike, just an easy sort of low heart rate, typically like a bit of an easy run replica, I guess. So for 50 minutes, and then straight off the bike, as triathletes doing my training really, just park the bike, get the running shoes on. I then went out with Robbie for a short run, for an easy run. So we did about 40 minutes. I think it was 5.5 miles in the end. Could have been a bit longer than 40 minutes then. And I didn't get sucked into doing too quick of a pace, so it was in the sort of 7:45 region pace, which is quite good, quite comfortable for me. I would have struggled a bit if it was in the lower 7s, so that's a good way to start the week on Monday. I then had a day off for running on Tuesday, so it was a swim in the Lido. Stayed in a little bit longer than the hour, just didn't really see how far I'd done in the time, so it's about 1 hour and 5 minutes, and did just shy of 4k I think in the pool, so quite a lot of volume for that swim on Tuesday. And today I'm out here over the golf course getting a quick sort of recovery based run in before my massage tonight. So moving on to the sessions within my own training, so whilst I am itching to get back to those interval sessions, my classic 6 or 8 by 3 minutes, I think that at the moment what I'm doing with having a bit of a extra effort at park run rather than these sessions is a good way to ease back in, because I've eased back in my easy running, the distance side of things with doing my longer runs, and then I'm creeping slowly towards the pace work. So with doing a 5k at 6:40 per mile, that should be sort of sub-threshold pace for me, so I'm not exerting myself too much and not putting too much strain on where I was injured before. So if I was to do this as a 3-minute effort, I'm probably looking to go sub 6-minute pace for a mile. So at the moment it's a bit more of a risk to go into that. Also the starting, the stopping puts a little bit more load on it, so whilst I do want to get these in, these will really turbocharge my training. Just playing the weighting game is the right thing at the moment, and in the next week or two I'll be looking at introducing those sessions again. So I'll be going for a massage tonight, be a good indicator of how I'm healing, where I'm at, because I'll be able to spot any knots, any difficulties I've got, and hopefully come through that clear. It won't be too painful, and I can get back to a bit of running for the rest of the week on Thursday and Friday. So my rest of the week I've got quite a lot of coaching, so I've got 2 nights of coaching. I'm going to do the same session, which is a Cooper's run 12-minute test, which is gives you an estimate of your VO2 max. So I can go into a bit more detail in that in a separate video, I think. I don't think it lends itself to saying here on the weekly video, but yeah, watch out for that one. So Wednesday night turned out to be a 4.5 mile jog before I then had a massage and coaching. The result of the massage was that my quad was a little bit tight and so was my hip flexor, but no more than it was before. I sort of had the layoff, so I'm booked in again in 2 weeks to work on this and manage this. I'm hoping with continuing the strength work, continuing the mobility, this will have an impact on improving my hip flexor, improving my quad, and I'll be back to be able to push a little bit more mileage. Thursday was a chance to get in the gym after my coaching session. So in total, I only ran a couple of miles in the coaching session as I'd driven there and just joined in the warm-ups and cool-downs and a little bit of moving around within the session. So it was good to get a bit of strength work. That weekly gym session that I'm doing, lifting weights, which is something I've not really done throughout my time in running. It's something that I want to keep in there every Thursday, twice a week. To build up that strength in my hip flexor and in the rest of my muscles as well that I'll use for running. So thinking the big muscle groups for quads, glutes and hamstrings and my calves. So Friday I got out before work for a run, so just over 6 miles in the morning, which is one of my longest midweek runs that I've done since I've come back. So that all went fine and felt okay on Friday. And it actually turned into a bit of a triathlon day on Friday, as I did go out on the bike after work for a 30-mile bike ride and then ended up the evening with a swim on Friday. So I went later on and did a bit of a swimming session. So it was quite good to have a change from just plodding up and down for the hour or however long I was in there. I split it up into some intervals for the swimming. So really broke it down into hundreds, 75s and 50s. So mimicking sort of what I do with the runnings, where I'm looking at pushing it hard and then having some recovery on that as I do it in an interval or a track session. So it was around sort of about 90 seconds or so, the longest reps, and right down to the shortest reps would be just over 30 seconds for the 50 meters. Saturday was Clumber Park run. So ahead of park run, I got a goal in mind that I really wanted to try and break the 20 minutes for park run this week. With doing a 20:40 the week previous, I thought that felt pretty comfortable. I could put a little bit more effort in and get under that 20 minutes. So I set about my business that day and went out in the first kilometre, first mile. I think clocked about a 6:10 for that first mile. So bearing in mind 20-minute pace is about 6:20 to 6:25 pace. It was a little bit up on that, so perhaps went off slightly too fast, but it did feel like that was the kind of pace that I needed for that 20 minutes. So I pushed it for the first mile, tried to hold it for the second mile. I did drop off a little bit here, so I ran the first mile or so with Emma and Lola, and she did end up finishing in 18:50 in the end. So it was a good decision that I didn't go with that pace and try and keep up, because my current level of fitness and not doing any sessions since I come back would not be able to keep up with something that was the pace I was running 4 to 5 weeks ago pre-injury. So I dropped back. I did actually find it quite tough going on that second mile. Coming to the hill for the second time, I did have to stop and walk up that hill. Found it really difficult and had a little bit of a walk up the hill at the end as well. So not a good day for my park run. I ended up doing a time of 20:40, which was very similar to the park run that I'd done at Conkers a week before, which felt pretty comfortable running that pace at Conkers, but I'd gone out a little bit too hot at Clumber Park and it bit me in that last mile, so really struggled. My heart rate, when I look on the graph, was quite high coming into that last mile. It did obviously drop with the breaks, but yeah, not the best of park runs for me, but one I can go out next week and try and get under that 20 minutes. I think maybe a bit of an easier day on Friday and have that real focus to push under the 20 minutes. I'm sure I'll do it, no problem. Moving on to Sunday. So a really promising Sunday that I got out for my long run again. So last week's long run was 10 miles. This was sort of my base for building that long run up. I've managed to push it 3 miles further that week So I've run 10 miles with Andy and we ran about 8-minute mile pace for this. That was a bit of a step up for Andy, as he'd not done that distance for a while. So when he then finished his run, I carried on and did 3 miles, but I stepped up the pace from what was probably an easy run pace at 8-minute miles, stepped it up to a steady pace. So just a little bit more effort in there, and it sort of raised my heart rate from about 150 into the 160s. So it's not a pace I want to be doing a lot of my running at, but it was a good test to see that on tired legs after 10 miles, I could still run that last 3 miles of that run at sort of low 7-minute mile pace. It was about 7:10s to 7:20 pace, which bodes well going into marathon training. So overall, it's been a great week. I've managed to build my mileage up to 36 miles this week. So it's an increase from last week was about 24 miles. I've built up to 36 this week. So quite a bit of a jump, but I have dropped down my cycling. So I didn't cycle as far this week. And as I've dropped that down, I've increased for running. So I feel pretty good. It's been a good week, and one that I can build on for next week as I'm bridging that gap to be able to get to where I'm at, where I feel comfortable to start Valencia marathon training. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video.